not new information. A man sees something, there's a reaction. I like what Dr. Bernie Seinfeld says, a man's optic nerve is directly connected to his penis. And how true that is. We can be walking at the beach, and I will see a man coming toward me in a tight Speedo. And I go, oh, go get some clothes on. That doesn't really turn me on. Where my husband, who could see a gal with a great figure coming down the beach in a string bikini, that would catch his eye. And so we are just simply wired differently. Of course, us ladies, we respond much greater to touch and to talk than men. Sometimes women chide their husband and say, oh, you know, I do any little thing and he's ready for action. But you know what? Again, I began to change my thoughts. And that is the way God has programmed your husband. Here's an analogy that you might understand. For those of us who have nursed our babies, do you remember that when our baby cried, or for that matter, anybody's baby in the vicinity, what happened? Letdown reflex. Our bodies had been programmed by God that when our ears heard a baby crying, ears turned boobies, let the milk down, you are going to be needed, and get ready for action. Now, could we stop that? No, we could not. Our body was pre-programmed, and it was a default setting by God that is what occurred. Well, translate that to our husbands. Their eyes have been programmed that when they see wife taking clothes off or doing something that is of a sensuous nature, eyes tell penis, oh, you better get ready soon because you are going to be needed as well. Now, again, that was a pre-programmed setting on your husband's body. And again, when I began to realize that that was the way God had made Simon, then you didn't feel that sense of resentment. Now, often ladies say, yes, I know my husband's visually stimulated, but I don't have a perfect body. Well, girls, don't wait for one. You need to work on it. And my idea of good looking is doing the best with what you have to work with. And yes, we need to eat properly, exercise, and look after ourselves. But if we're waiting to look like the perfect model, that may or may not happen. And so don't beat yourself over the head with that. Most men would rather have and get into bed with a woman who's packing a little extra weight here and there than a perfectly manicured Barbie doll that's as cold as ice. So turn the lights down low. Wear some lingerie that accentuates your positive and depletes or decreases your negatives. Hey, don't let that be something that makes you not want to be involved sexually. I like this cartoon that says, Step 1, apply Miracle Cellulite Cream to problem areas. Step 2, run 10 miles. So sometimes we have to work on that, but we don't have to wait for perfection. Now, often ladies will say to me, Ruth, this idea of visual stimulation, this sounds kind of raunchy to me. I mean, is this a biblical concept? I said, oh, yes, there's many examples in the Bible of where there is visual stimulation. To give you a few, Esther in the Bible. Remember, they sent her off to a spa with maidens looking after her for almost a year before she had to appear before the king. Now, I said to Simon, you send me to a spa for a year, I'm going to look a lot better as well. But again, the connection with the visual stimulation. And then Ruth. Do you remember what her mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her in order for her to catch the eye of Boaz? Go home, bath, put on perfume, a clean dress. In other words, look and smell good, and you will probably catch the eye of Boaz, which, as we know the story, that's exactly what happened. And then, of course, Solomon's wife in the book of Song of Solomon. When I began to read some literature that helped me understand the symbolism in that book, I said to Simon, this is a pretty steamy little book in the middle of the Bible. And she's performing an erotic dance, and it's obvious they're looking at each other's naked bodies, that your eyes, your neck, your breasts, and vice versa. So there was a ton of visual stimulation going on in that book. And again, God didn't seem to have an issue with it at all. So a study was done of what turned men on the most. And 92% of men said what turned them on the most was sexy lingerie. Now, as I talked to many ladies, they would say, oh, is it okay for a Christian woman to wear lingerie? Like my mother said, oh, you can't wear that. That is for whores and ladies of the night, and that has no place in the home of a Christian. And I said, your mom's right. Those ladies are wearing lingerie in an inappropriate way to catch the eye of whoever and sleep around with anybody who will say yes. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about presenting myself in a way that's pleasing to my husband in our own private moments for an audience of one, and by all means, it is completely appropriate. I remember one lady at my seminar said, oh, Ruth, thank you for saying that. I've been undressing in the closet all these years thinking I was a modest Christian woman. And now I can go home and dress like I always wanted to. But somehow my mother had kind of put the kibosh on that, saying, oh, don't you dare do that. That's so inappropriate. What does 1 Samuel 16 say? Man looks on the outward appearance. And how true. I remember one lady who said, Ruth, why do I buy this lingerie? I mean, really. It doesn't stay on long. She says, you know what I do when I go to the lingerie store? I go along the rack, I take something off, throw it on the floor, says, looks good, I'll take it. And so we laughed together saying that, yeah, sometimes it doesn't stay on long, but it's getting there, and it's the fun, it's the visual stimulation that you're cooperating with the way God made. Now, do I say you have to wear lingerie? No. You wear what's comfortable. Ask your husband what he likes. It has to be something that's mutually agreed upon and that you both feel comfortable. And some ladies say, well, I've never done this before. I said, well, then don't come bounding into the room tonight with a thong that might give your husband a heart attack. Start slowly, something with a hint of sensuality, something that you feel comfortable, and slowly work into something that you feel completely comfortable. I like what Laura Lee Croker said, dump the frump girlfriend. She said, quote, ditch the tighty-whitey granny panties, nursing bra, boxing shorts, sweats, and faded, stained Winnie the Pooh t-shirts. Test drive a thong or a lacy teddy. Leave jazzy lingerie on your mate's pillow or in his car seat, or mail it to him at work. He'll come to bed with his engines roaring. If you walk around covering yourself like a nun from head to toe, or wearing underwear that could pass inspection at the Amish colony, you will feel dowdy on the inside and out. When we make changes to our clothes, even our underclothes, we make changes to our sense of sensuality. And when you feel sensuous, more appealing, you'll want to express that feeling. It's impossible to feel desirable when you're wearing billowy yards of fabric for no reason. Dump the frump girlfriend. And how true she is in that statement. I like this quote by Malcolm Thiel, which says, the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. The grass is greener where you water it. And I don't need to tell you that many men are enslaved with pornography, which, of course, what is that? Visual stimulation. And they're having that need met in a completely inappropriate way. But I say, if I'm meeting my husband's need for visual stimulation at home, then why does he have to pursue or shop elsewhere? I remember one lady saying to her husband, are you ever tempted to go uptown to the peep shops and the strip shows? And he said, no. Why would I ever go uptown for cheap hamburger when I'm having steak at home? And she said, right on. Keep coming home to mama for the steak. Now, I'll be quick to say that there are many men who have issues with pornography, that it has nothing to do with you. They were addicted to that long before you were in the picture, maybe as a young teenager. So sometimes gals feel like, well, they're looking at that because I'm not good enough or I'm not sexy enough. It may have nothing to do with that. That has to do with issues that they need to work through with a counselor. However, in some cases, I remember talking to some men in our counseling practice that said, Ruth, I see my wife naked once a year if I'm a good boy and if I earn it. And he said, that's not enough for me. I want to be able to enjoy her female form and share my body with her. Lastly, A man's self-esteem is connected to how well things are functioning at home, especially in bed. You know,